Welcome to Female Frequency Podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Jody Nelson, curator, artist, mentor, divine channel, and host of Female Frequency. I am here to bring you unbound forms of ecofeminism, reclaiming art, spirituality, and feminine power to revive the earth. Each week, Female Frequency brings you intimate conversations with trailblazers and amazing stories to ignite change. You'll find inspiring alternatives to the patriarchy, discover creative paths, courage, connection, and magic. Hear from the heroes who activate and restore the divine feminine for our earth. Each episode serves as a catalyst, offering wisdom along with practical steps to empower you to make a positive impact on the planet. Whether you're an artist, empath, or eco-warrior, there's a story here to invite awe and help you embody what I call the female frequency. How is your heart today? That is the question that my next guest is totally moved by. YogaTara, founder and director of the Isha Institute, tends deeply to the expansion of our incandescent hearts. In 1996, she turned from the hard science branch of biochemistry towards a whole body, whole life sciences of yoga, ayurveda, and somatic experience. Join us on this journey from our very first meeting in the rapids of the Marsandi River, which is located in Nepal, to her ongoing path of helping people access their capacity for healing and joy. Now, she demystifies yoga, and I know that you know it's not just about postures or breathing or even enlightenment. So what you'll learn here is that it's about the harmony of the head, the heart, and the hands. Gain insight into what she calls a beautiful science of radical acceptance and awareness as we discuss intuition versus impulse. We get into accessing intelligence through female frequencies of slowness, softness, and surrender, which is not without its own forms of daring and courage. So listen, we talk about our pilgrimages and some crazy ass experiences. Rather than just hurtle ahead, learn how Shakti, known as manifest, from the heart-centered divine feminine energy in the world can rebalance the masculine top-heavy bias towards intellect to help us find our true life flow. Hello, sister YogaTara. I'm so excited that you're hanging out with me today.
I am thrilled. I'm just so pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I got to tell the audience how we met. You and I met on a river, and it wasn't just any river, was it?
No, it was the Marsandi in Nepal many moons ago.
It was many moons ago, and I think we're up to 25, 30.
Something in the 20s for sure, yes.
That river taught me a lot.
Definitely. I mean, I think the rivers always teach us a lot, right? But I think she brought us together very quickly. We were in the same boat, and within a few moments of being in the raft, we were popcorned out and swimming down class 5 rapids together.
We shall survive.
Mother would save us. Yes.
That's right. Just going with the flow. That was, and that was a mighty flow she was, for sure. But tell us, how did you get to Nepal? What were you doing there?
That's a question I get asked a lot. And I feel like if anybody knows me who's listening to this, they'll say, oh, here she goes with the story. But I think karma brought me there. It was never on my radar. I ended up in Nepal in 1996, soon after I graduated from college. I was scheduled to go to the Peace Corps in North Africa and had a year before my posting started. And so I was looking to get experience in public health and wrote to all these public health universities. This was before email really existed. That's how old you know I am. And one wrote back and called me in for an interview in the US. And then within a few months, I was shipped out to Nepal. And when they asked me where I had a choice between Indonesia or Nepal, I said, send me wherever you need me. I happened to be in Indonesia once before on a study program. And when they said Nepal, I had to go look at the atlas. I knew it was near India. But again, in those days before we had Google Maps, I had to go break out that old atlas and look it up. And then I
crack open a book.
That's where I'm going.
Had you even heard of Mount Everest?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
and
cool.
I have to say, I knew about that area because of Tintin. Growing up reading Tintin in Tibet and the many exploits. And so Nepal is a very small country sandwiched between India and the autonomous region of Tibet.
Yeah.
And some people will know it for its mountains. Other people will know it for other things, but yeah.
When I was in Nepal, I was called, because I was on spiritual pilgrimage in India, and my cousin was like, I'll go to India with you if you go to Nepal with me. Mm-hmm. So I said, sure, let's see if I can make some paper. Let's see what other sacred sites. And that's where I fell in love with what I call river love.
Absolutely.
The forces coming together.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And, Nepal is not necessarily known for its rivers unless you're a river person. I certainly had no idea. And then I also ended up on Nepal's rivers more than its mountains. And that's where we got to meet.
It is. So you were a super science nerd.
I began that way. I did a degree in biochemistry and came over to work on a micronutrient project in Nepal to sort of head up their laboratory there, which was basically a closet. That's how I got there. I think the universe just thought, let's get her there any way we can. And on the third day I was in Nepal, I met my first yoga teacher, and that was it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember on this river trip, you really emerged as everybody was working with their fear factors, and you really emerged as a spiritual leader then. And so where were you with your yoga science passion?
I think back then, so that's late 90s, I think I dove pretty deeply. So when I met you, I'd recently sort of stopped my work in public health and had decided to really go more deeply into yogic sciences and Ayurveda. And in those days, again, it wasn't so obvious to find all that information. It wasn't as known or available as it is now. So I was apprenticing with an Ayurvedic physician in Nepal. And there was a department of Ayurveda at the time it was a kingdom also under His Majesty's government.
Sure.
So learning there. And so the minute I came in touch with yoga and Nepal, I think it just took me on that track. And so by the time I'd met you, it had been about 3 years that I was really beginning to dive deep. And then it got just deeper and deeper.
Deeper and deeper. I know you have done so many workshops on everything that you have learned, which I hope we get to dive into a little bit, into today's conversation for sure. We were talking about heart intelligence because that is really a huge drive that brought us both to Nepal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We were talking about going off the beaten track and really following our hearts and our intuition and what a feminine quality that is, a feminine energy. And I don't mean that that's by any means reserved for women. We all have feminine energy, but really how much trust and I want to say a little crazy it takes to follow one's heart.
Absolutely.
We tend to have maybe a little bit more of when we're younger for some of us. And I know you and I both did. There we were, just traveling so simply and cheaply and really following our hearts and our passion, what was making us feel very alive. And I think that's what the heart does.
Yes. Yes. And still to this day, I look back on that river trip and I'm like, it is a flow. Sometimes you're on the fast track and sometimes you hit some turbulence.
Yeah, sometimes you get stuck in that whirlpool too, right?
Yeah,
like,
yes.
You're eddied out and you're like, wait, how's my boat getting stuck here?
Yes. And that
female boat to pop you out.
Yeah. Go learn this lesson.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What are some of these other female qualities, other feminine qualities in the sense of energy? Can you talk about per your yoga science, not just on the mat? Because you're a huge advocate of the ecology of yoga.
Absolutely. No, I think I sort of, like you said, I'm keen to share sort of the message of yoga and demystifying a lot of the misconceptions we have about it. I've only studied and practiced really in South Asia, where it is a culture. And that doesn't mean that your everyday person practices it, but it's so deeply integrated into the culture that you're not necessarily aware that you're practicing yogic principles or practices per se.
You're so humble. You've done workshops all over the world.
Yes. I mean, I go here and there where I'm called, but again, this passion of yoga is for everyone. It's a human science, and it doesn't matter whether we have other religions, what our gender identity is, what our age is, because it's really not just about postures or breathing. It's really, as my teacher describes, the harmony of the head, heart, and the hands. So the mind, the emotions, and our actions, and these different dimensions of us. And when all of those dimensions are recognized and sort of purified and balanced and then working in sync with each other, then we experience really joy. And that's really the outcome of yogic practice. Not necessarily enlightenment, but to really live a joyful life and be happy. And it doesn't mean that there's not suffering. It doesn't mean that, we're not dealing with our mind and difficult emotions or physical limitations.
Wow. I work so much with so many artists. Can we go into more of what you just said, that the head, the heart, and the hands?
Sure.
And like that, and bringing that joy out, because that is a receptive quality to be able to listen, to be able to soften up enough to listen to that harmony and that interconnectedness between those.
Yes. So exactly what you're saying, a lot of what we're practicing, through postures is that listening, is that becoming aware. What am I doing with my body? What does it feel like? Can I move my right foot this way or my right leg? Or can I not? And just watching. So it's that same thing, awareness with receptivity, acceptance of what is. And I think yoga is this beautiful science of radical acceptance. This is where I am. And also then knowing that I can shift some of those things as well. We're constantly creating and recreating ourselves if we allow ourselves to. And I think that's the biggest sort of artwork, right?
Yes.
So, yoga is also explained as being a creative expression of ourselves. Because it's not really just for us that we're doing it. We're doing that part of the hands is, we work on understanding our heart and our mind, and in order to express that and share it and give it to the world and be a co-creator in the universe, right?
Right. Be that vessel, be the co-creator of what is coming through.
Right. Absolutely.
What the spirit of creativity is going to bring into the physical form.
Yes. Right. The Shakti.
The Shakti.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll never forget when something's obviously coming up. I just got a little choked up, but I'll never forget going on these pilgrimages. And one time I thought I was going to meet Shiva, there was these art forms in the caves in India, Allura and Ajanta. And the next thing I know, it's like, Shakti, here I am.
That's what she does.
And then I was like, okay, yes, loud and clear. I hear you.
Yeah, but isn't it that Shiva brings us to Shakti?
Yes.
Right? They're in this constant dance with each other, and it coexists, right? So
yes.
The idea in yoga has many different philosophical roots, and one of them being classical tantra, this understanding that everything in creation comes out of the merging together of Shiva and Shakti, the masculine and the feminine energies, and the understanding that Shiva being pure consciousness, pure awareness, and Shakti is everything that's manifest. And in order for Shiva to know himself, he must come through Shakti. There's no way about it.
There's no way about it. It's got to come through the flower.
Face, hanging out. And then the dynamic, the feminine energy is that dynamic energy that manifests.
Oh, yeah.
And allows us to experience everything.
Everything.
I'm so glad to hear about how India did that to you, because it will do that.
It will do that. And even when I was on a grant assignment, even before that, and I was in China, that was a solo trip. That one was intense too. That was an archaeological site that I'll never forget. Just set me on another trajectory and learning about the female frequency. Then these pilgrimages, it's following that heart intelligence that sometimes, if I try to explain it to my family or to someone at the airport, they're like, what are you doing?
Yes.
And have you discovered that too?
Oh, all the time. I sort of have to have a few phrases in my back pocket, depending on who I'm talking to if they ask me what I do or where I live, I sort of gauge, well, what can they hear? Or, but yes, I'm used to people sort of raising their eyebrows. And then again, maybe you've seen this too, that when I go to those places or I live where I live, I'm meeting people who are doing the same. And so like we did, also finding this community.
Yes. Yeah.
But, when you're talking about pilgrimage, I think our heart is what takes us on pilgrimages, on any pilgrimage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We're really listening to that. And there's an element of faith and inspiration and surrender.
Yeah.
A pilgrimage is a surrendering, right? Of finding once again, of a seeking.
Yes.
It really is something so profound, I think. And visceral. Yeah.
Yeah, because you just have to jump on the faith train.
That's right. Which will take you to some incredible places, right?
Yes, because it's
not always easy.
It isn't. And I found, because there's intuition and then there's impulse. And sometimes I'm a little obsessive. In human design, I'm a projector, a splenic projector. So sometimes I know that I have to listen to my intuition. Yeah. And I'm life path is just learning, when is it the intuition or when is it impulse or this obsessive, like I must do this now. Because when I went to China, no, it was, I saw the silk scroll I had to go to.
Yep.
And I just had to go. And then I had to go figure it out. And within 3 months, I was there. But
impressive.
It was so impressive. I think so too. Thank you. I'm sorry. Because, 3 months and just 2 years ago, now we fast forward 30 years later, I'm like, my heart had that same feeling.
Yes.
It was, there it is. There's the calling. I gotta go. But my head got in the way. I was like, wait, if I go, I'm going to have to go rent a car. I'm going to have to, right? And I'm like, I don't really speak the language. And then another friend of mine was like, have you gone on one of these pilgrimages before? I'm like, oh yeah. I didn't know the language and I had to take a train and then a bus. And, you know, every Lonely Planet guidebook told you not to take the bus in India. And I was like, sign me up. How fast can I get a ticket? I'm on the bus. I got ants everywhere. It was uncomfortable to say the least, but joy was just carrying me. I was on a faith train. I was there, nothing to bother me. And then all of a sudden I had to get on a buggy with an ox to get the rest of the way. And I look back now and I didn't question a thing.
Nope.
It was like, okay, yeah, no, that sounds about right. That sounds right. That sounds right. And so as soon as I looked at that perspective, I'm like, I have Google Translate and I can rent a car. I'm over 25. Here we go. Let's go.
There we go. Yes, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that, like how our head, it can get in the way, right? We've talked about this before of, you know, how do you make sense of what's the head, what's the heart, what's an impulse, what is intuition? This is a question I come against myself, but also with people I work with, you know.
Yeah.
We're always told to trust our intuition, but how do we know what it is? And I think it's a very intimate, personal exploration. And hopefully through some trial and error, we get it.
Yeah. And an exploration with the female frequency.
Yes.
With that intuition and softening enough to hear it.
Yes. Slowing down.
Slowing down.
Like getting out of the head, really, right? We need our head. I have nothing against the head and the intellect, but we're so top heavy.
Yeah.
Our cultures in general are so biased towards intellect and how it's the supreme thing. It's a very masculine approach, I find. And again, we need our intellect. But if we're only operating out of that, we're really not a whole being.
Right.
And we're really not accessing all the types of intelligence that we have.
We're unbalanced.
Very unbalanced. And we see the repercussions of that in the world. Where the mind and the head strategize. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And we need that faculty sometimes, but if we only go by that and the ego,
we're
going to be chasing that tail and creating a lot of problems.
Like we have seen, and history keeps repeating itself.
Right.
Yes.
So then, how do we, and the head really, because it strategizes, it wants to be in control. Like it's saying to itself and to everything, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, let me take charge. And our heart's like, hello, hello. The body's like, I'm getting sick. I'm tired. Stop. And our head's like, no, we've got to move ahead.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so, it brings me back to what you were asking about yoga being really the science of listening to all those different intelligences that we have, and how do we lead with them? And part of that is, like you said, getting slow, soft, receptive, stepping out of the judgmental long enough to just see.
Yes.
To just see, what is it that I'm dealing with? And sometimes that's really dark, what we're dealing with, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need some help in there. But I've always said the heart really never leads us in the wrong direction, ever. Ever.
Yeah. It is a beautiful intelligence. The heart is a beautiful intelligence that will bring you to joy.
Yeah. My teacher said, in yoga, we said that our pure awareness resides in the heart center. That's our pure awareness.
That's pure awareness. Yes. So let's bring it down to the hands.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Let's get creative.
Right. Right. And then how do we, right, exactly, use the intelligence of the intellect and the heart and express it through our actions.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So that's what the hands are traditionally in yoga, is our behaviors, our actions.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Ah.
And part of that action is creative work, but we are creative beings by nature.
Yes. I mean, it's a miracle that humans are born.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. It's miraculous.
It is.
Yeah. That we even get, I'm sorry, past adolescence is quite amazing, I think. Or our early 20s,
right.
Going on an ox cart and a bus in the middle of India. Right? Like,
yes.
Those guardian angels that you have were sure working overtime. I know mine have been. You're like, gosh, what else is she doing? Okay, bring in the truth.
Are you talking about the time that you were on the roof of the bus, or what are you?
Oh yeah, no, that I think was pretty mild compared to some other things. I've been in the train in the middle of Bihar in the middle of the night, got on the wrong train going to the ashram, completely lost. No phones.
No cell phones, of course not. And you're a woman in India.
Yeah. Yep. And,
white skin, blue eyes.
Yeah, in the middle at this time of one of probably the poorest states of India and renowned to be dangerous. And I remember other Indians looking at me, asking where I was going, and they were horrified that I was going to Bihar. We don't even go to Bihar. What are you doing?
But you were already fluent at that. No?
I was comfortable in Nepali. So I'd already been in Nepal I was in Nepal for 6 years before I even dared to go to India. That's how nervous I was because of everything that I'd heard. And Nepal is comparatively more gentle, I want to say. And this is not to give India a bad rep at all. But Nepal is smaller. It's a bit less intense and a different culture also. So I spoke Nepali, which shares roots with Hindi, but I did not speak Hindi. No. So that was interesting. But of course, in the middle of the night, somehow we'd gotten on the right train. It's completely empty. It's 1 a.m. And I come into a car, a new car, trying to find some light and a place to sit. And there's a gentleman with 3 young kids, so maybe teens. And I think, okay, a man with children, this has got to be relatively safe. And I sit across the way and he turns to me in perfect English and says, "Where are you going?" And I tell him where I'm going. And he says, "Oh, we are too. We must have known each other in a past life. Let me take you there." That's India for you.
That's India. That is India. I know. So the community that happens, yes, when you're on those synchronies that happen, I just feel like you're doing the right thing in life. And you didn't listen to some of the bad rap or why other people have bad experiences.
Yeah.
You know, that's not necessarily your path. So
correct.
Listening to that intuition of where you want to go, is what you want to learn.
Yes.
What you want to experience.
And I think those places call to us. It's not just us, right?
Yes.
So the meeting and that's intuition also of us being able to be receptive enough to hear the call that a land, that a place, that our future self is calling to us and saying, "Come."
Yeah.
And meet me halfway. And really it is that, right? Daring and trusting and being smart about it too. Like taking the medicines you need and the equipment you need and whatnot. Right?
Yeah. Preparing.
Preparing. But I think our intuition will often take us into those places that aren't necessarily safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise we don't grow. And I don't think any creative, I imagine an artist, plays it safe.
No, they dare. They dare. Yeah. Especially when they're, creating a new series or something new, have a new exhibition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and we hear this often, courage is not the absence of fear. Right? We don't follow our heart without also feeling maybe a little nervous or hearing those voices in our head, like everybody thinks I'm crazy. What am I doing? I'm not following the conventional path. I shouldn't be doing this. We have enough space in us to hold all of that.
You do. Right? Yes. And it's that heart intelligence, following that intuition, especially if you can listen back to when have you followed your intuition and it has helped you grow. Following those. That will help differentiate if it's an impulse, perhaps.
Right.
Do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure I could write a manual on following your intuition. I still haven't figured it out that clearly, but it's definitely different than impulsive. Impulsive feels urgent, like crazy, heady, urgent. Like
heady.
Into my head. It's very heady. It's a panicky thing. And again, it brings us back to, our own cues to know ourselves. But intuition to me it's deeper in my body than that. And it won't leave me alone.
Right.
It's just a think, wakes me up at 3 a.m. going,
all knowing.
Yes, all knowing. And then also I always ask myself this question: if I don't do this thing that I feel the impulse, right? The drive to do, and maybe an impulse, will I regret not doing it? If the answer is yes, then I will do it.
Okay. Beautiful question to ask. Beautiful question. Is this a question that you ask in some of your workshops?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Well, I'll ask the people I work with, clients, if they have a choice to make. Just try to help them first listen to the different parts of themselves, but also then ask,
ask what? Ask themselves.
Ask themselves, will I regret not doing this? Another question is, how will I feel on the other side of this? How do I see myself being? Where do I see myself? Where do I visualize myself? Where does that intuitive knowing take me on the other side of this?
Right. And one of those questions is, how's my heart today? How's your heart today?
One of my favorite questions of all times. Yeah.
What a sweet way to talk to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. It was a dear friend who actually introduced me to that question, and I've just held on to it. I think it's a very special one to ask each other and then to ask ourselves. And to I do a practice every day more than once where I speak to my heart.
Oh.
Yes. And I just say, thank you so much. I love you so much. I love my mind, even though it drives me crazy sometimes. I love my body. Thank you for walking. Thank you for breathing. Thank you for allowing me to eat and assimilate and be here and be able to have hands to reach out to people and to hold people. Thank you to my life, to my mistakes, to everything, but really this deep appreciation for my heart.
Yes. I find that when I'm in that state of gratitude, I'm softer.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I keep hearing the word soft as we're talking, and you keep bringing it up, and I'm so curious about what it means to you.
I feel like I was in that production mode, that masculine mode. I must do. I was a competitive athlete growing up.
Yep.
I had to do this drive, get there, be a good teammate, just drive. And then in school, drive. And then producing shows and just drive. So being soft, I've just discovered when I'm softer, things are easier.
Wow.
And you know what? I'm still doing 100 things in the day. It's just less hard because I'm softer. I'm like you said, am I going to regret if I don't do it? Yes. Okay, fine. No problem. That's easy. I'm going to do that. And I can carry on, but I'm just doing it I'm doing it from my place, a softer place, instead of because I have to. Do I want to? Do I have to?
Beautiful. It's really beautiful. And that's the gift of time, right? That's the gift of aging, I think. And some people might get it younger, but I didn't.
I hope the younger generation can be softer. Yeah.
My sense is also that comes from a dominant, heady, patriarchal system.
Absolutely.
Please don't get me wrong. I love men.
Yes.
I admire the masculine. But when a system is so imbalanced, nobody really benefits. Men can't really be in their full masculine. Women can't be in their feminine, or whatever we associate with. We can't really find that balance between the two. But I think we were talking about this earlier also, of how when you get soft, the feminine energy is just that, sort of more flowing, receptive, aware of the callings, right? And that rhythm doesn't fit into a predominantly masculine energetic field, which is go, externalize, achieve.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Have a list, tick everything off your list, and you do it in this chronological order. The feminine facet is not linear. And if we have more of that feminine energy in us, and we want to explore it, then it's to really break away from that scheduling, I think, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the structures that are in place.
Yeah, I have two lists. I have my alpha list, which I call the female frequency, and then I've got my list. And so if it's because work, I need a little structure for my work so I can have a show like a podcast and have exhibitions. But sometimes when I'm looking at my list, I'm like, what do I feel? What do I feel like doing to continue that joy ride? Thank you so much for vibing with the female frequency today. If this episode or any other episode has helped transform or shift your perspective in any way, please tell me all about it. Tell me all about it in a review where you are listening to this podcast. It will totally help me out and help spread the vibe. If you're a creative looking for more support, this is what I do for a profession. I often host workshops, and you can find out all about those on my website. So take a look at www.pressreign.com. That's PRESSREIGN.com. All right, y'all, until next time.